It's safe to say that we were resource limited when I was a kid. I remember my mom made me a pair of homemade blue jeans one year, denim pants to wear to school. I got to tell you, the lesson that year was kids are mean, right? We really did get the government cheese sometimes, and better than that, we got the commodity pork in the silver can with the pig on the front, no paper label. My sister would warm it up in the skillet with some barbecue sauce. Served on hamburger buns was my favorite meal. It was a toss-up between that and the Jack Mac patties we had learned to call salmon patties, so my grandma didn't freak out or none of the folks from church would think we was eating cat food. We were taught in my family that if you kept your head down and worked hard, you could have the dream, right? My parents believed it. The idea of the self-made man, so desirable to us, it has become like the emperor's new clothes. It's a lie that we all share. That somehow if you don't have a piece of the pie, that there must be something wrong with you. You must be flawed in some way. You must be on drugs, or you must be lazy, or you must be stupid. Well, my parents were none of those things. My mother was a bookkeeper, even though she dropped out of school, I think after the 8th grade. She was very good with numbers. She had a sense for business. She could have been a CPA, but it's very difficult to continue your education when you have a house full of kids by the time you're 20 years old, right? But most of the time throughout her life, my mother worked as a bookkeeper. She also cooked and cleaned and cared for us. I remember that she would always set aside a little time for each of us. And I remember the clean, soapy smell of her skin when it would just be me and her. And she would tell me stories about a precocious boy that often got in trouble but was really lovable, who happened to share my name. And she would sing me little French songs. I don't even know what they were, but like little nursery rhyme songs in French. And now I'm wondering, where did my mom even hear that, right? I don't know. Mom was pretty amazing. My father, when he was still a young man, when he was a kid, really, he worked on farms and he made wages. And one year he bought coats for all his brothers and sisters. Theirs were worn thin, or they didn't fit anymore, torn up, whatever. There was probably 7 or 8 brothers and sisters. I can't even remember how many brothers and sisters my dad had. His father, my grandfather, drank a lot, and he'd get out of control in those days. My dad rebelled against that by never taking a drink his entire life and working every single day. He'd been so many things. It's funny. It's like a Louis L'Amour back jacket. My father's been a cowboy and a car salesman, a cigarette salesman. He's been a cop. He could operate bulldozers or drive dump trucks. One year, things got tough, and he moved us all up across the river from St. Louis, got a job at McDonnell Douglas, and that's where my father worked on the Apollo space capsules. He was kind of my hero, right? Truth was, the guy couldn't catch a break. The thing is that going from poverty to power is a little bit like trying to shoot that rocket to the moon. It's the escape velocity, right? Charles Portis said the escape velocity is the hardest part, right? All his life, he'd been so many different things. All his life, things happened, right? Well, it was after years of feast or famine. He got a loan somehow, and he went in partners with a guy and bought a service station. Going to be the first person in my family to be a business owner outside of the farm. Things were looking good for us. Things were looking up, right? And that station caught fire and burned completely up. It already completely stocked it, but we never got it opened, and there was no insurance. I don't even know how he got away with not having insurance to that point, but my dad was a pretty slick talker. And things got real tough for us for a minute after that. We would eat oats for breakfast and beans for dinner. Mom would iron patches on the knees of our jeans when they'd wear through. She raised vegetables in a garden out back, and she'd can them, sometimes make soup in the winter. We had homemade haircuts and hand-me-down clothes, because poor people got poor ways, they say. The truth is, we never thought about it that way. We never thought of ourselves as poor. My mom and dad just made jokes about things like that, and we all had a great life together. We didn't think of ourselves as less than. And sure enough, it wasn't long at all then that my father started working again, And then, and here's the deal, at nearly the age I am now, my father reinvented himself one last time. He started a class at night to be an emergency medical technician. And he was good at it. He had a talent for it. I guess it turns out later, I learned that he had wanted to be a doctor when he was young, right? Which was unattainable. Anyway, he was an EMT, and people liked him. He liked the job, and he advanced. He became an instructor for other EMTs. Then later he became a paramedic, which is a little higher up. I think they could start IVs or whatever. He became a paramedic instructor, and eventually my father served as the vice president of the Arkansas EMS Association. And I'm not even sure what that means, but I know there were lots of plaques on the wall, and he was proud of those. Everywhere he went in that field, people liked him. On the day my father passed away, his hometown, by legal proclamation, made it Bobby Dean Booth Day. And they recognized his years of service. At his funeral procession, there were ambulances and police cars, state and county and city. There was fire trucks. Everywhere you would look were uniforms. And all these guys. And when they lowered my father down into the ground, the radios on the belts of all these first responders went off in unison. And a disembodied dispatcher's voice called for my father's end of watch one last time. And we were choked up, right? It hit, that was the part that hit me. And it was a beautiful, beautiful thing. In the long run, my father still died in debt, right? Like most of us, my father sold the hours of his life. And somehow the wealthy are paid for the results of their efforts. It's not an even field. It's an oversimplification to say that in this country, everyone has an equal chance for success. It's just not true. I'll tell you this, if ambition and drive guaranteed success, I'd be the son of millionaires right now. So, it's self-fulfilling prophecy then, that you find that you don't have any value placed on you by society. You begin to doubt your own value, and then you begin almost to punish yourself, right? We're terrible about shaming ourselves as the working poor. We're always judging ourselves against those other guys that started out bad too, right? The problem is systemic. And what really needs to happen is it needs to have more exposure. People need to recognize that's what we need to do. We need to quit shaming the poor. We need to quit shaming ourselves as the poor. We need to have guarantees by our government that everyone's really going to have an equal chance. And if our leaders don't guarantee us that, we need to hold them accountable at the polls and all over. Right? We don't need to put up with it anymore. We need to shine a light on it. We need to shake a tree. We need to tell a story or two. I'm happy and pleased to have this opportunity to share the truth and to tell you a little bit of my parents' truth. I'm not sure if that's a drop the mic moment, but I don't know that I've ever found more pleasure in a story I've told.